American democracy would not work without a free functioning media in the United States. Despite the fact that the media has no control over elections in the United States, it's through the media that most people find out who actually won, not only in the national elections, but in regional, state, and local elections as well. The election night is the Super Bowl for most news operations. That's when reporters come in and put everything else aside and spend every second they have that day trying to accurately report what's going on in their local election, whether things are going right or whether things are going wrong. It is actually, I believe, the night that we prove in the media our worth to the American people. So without a strong functioning media in this country, we would have to wait weeks, perhaps sometimes even months, to know who our representatives are in the upcoming year. So I think it's very important that we have a media that's separate from the government to report to the common American how their vote will affect their lives. Election journalism has changed tremendously during my career. Back when I started, we were still on typewriters and running from campaign stop to campaign stop and trying to figure out what the narrative was of the campaign. But now, with social media, with video on all the time, you have fewer journalists who go to every stop because you can always sit on your computer and watch these campaign stops. So it's a little more disconnected than it used to be in the past. But one of the things that has increased is the idea that more and more journalists are not just talking to the candidates and talking to the candidates' representatives. We're out there actually talking to the voters. More and more news operations want to actually go out and talk to the people who are casting the vote and not depending as much on polls as we did in the past, because as everyone knows, over the last few election cycles, polls have become less and less reliable when predicting the actual outcome of the race. So I think you'll see more and more journalists out there talking to the people who are actually casting the votes, not just talking to the political experts, not just talking to the campaign managers, but trying to figure out what the actual voter is thinking of before he or she goes to the polls. The thing that worries many of us political journalists is that the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee have started up their own media operations that masquerade as objective news. And behind this, and we saw this start a long time ago when I was a much younger reporter, but behind this, many operations who are not trying to be fair to the other side have begun masquerading as news. This is in addition to operations who just make things up. And it's become hard for the American voter to figure out who's being accurate, who's being biased. Should I trust this piece of news? Should I distrust that piece of news? Because there are so many things out there. One of the things that I suggest to people who are interested in finding out what really happened is to diversify their reading, viewing, and listening habits. Don't just take one Facebook post or one web page reporting something to say, can you believe this candidate did this? Check to see if anybody else is reporting the same thing. Check to see if there is video in more than one place. Check to see if that photo has been represented on another social media. In the past, we would be able to turn on the television, pick up our newspaper, or turn on the radio and expect everything we heard to be accurate. That world is gone. Now we have to double check behind everything. No matter how much you want to believe it's true, before telling anybody else, double check. Because in the world we live in, there are a lot of bad actors who are trying to trick you.